feel like to be white?
About like this. Next question.
Hello folks, how are you doing today? This is Eugene Doc Stories here with another video, and I hope that you're doing fine wherever you are today. So the question of today, how does it really feel to be white? This is not a question that black folks are able to answer, but at an observing stance, we can get to hear the opinion of white folks of how does it really feel to be white. But just before that, there is some concept that I want to bring. I understand that it might feel different, like how do you really feel to be white? So there is also intersectionality between white people. We have poor white people, we have rich white people, we have women, white. How does it feel to be a white man? How does it feel to be a black man? So that's the intersectionality that I'm talking about. That's why I'll say that there are varied opinions when it comes to how does it really feel to be a white person? Like, how does it feel to be a white doctor? How does it feel to be a white teacher? How does it feel to be a white driver? How does it feel to be a white president? You know, the intersectionality. That's why we have varied opinions. However, there's one thing that passes across this question to white people. And as I said earlier, this is a question that cannot be answered by black people. However, on the sidelines, we have the experiences from what we've seen, from how we've interacted with white folks, from how we have dealt with them, especially people who have engaged in interracial marriages, and on hand you've been dealing with them. And back to the question. So today's video is gonna delve right into this issue, and we're gonna see a couple of white people trying really to say of how it really fails to be white. But at the critical side of it, I felt like most of them never even tried to answer the question. Most of them, only few of them admitted some things, only few of them recognized some things, but not all of them. Some of them were just playing around and they never answered. And that brings the question of accountability. One thing that I would like to say, in as much as this discussion is centered on racism, we need to have accountability. The one thing that I usually say is that one way of solving a problem is first recognizing where the problem is. After recognizing where the problem is, that's when constructively we can get to know the answers to this problem. So we want to get to understand, in the lenses of white people, how do they feel to obtain, or how do they feel to have some privileges? How do they feel now that the time is changing and the privileges are not yet there? Because of recent, we've been hearing complaints from white people of the living standard it's hard. And I say that black folks have been dealing with this. So how does it really feel to be white? That's the question in the room. So I want us to watch this video, then come back, have a discussion, and get to talk, get to understand things which are really happening in our society today, especially in the America. So let's dive right into the video. You can always subscribe to the channel if you resonate with me. You can join our membership, get to really see what we can offer you. Until then, let's dive right into the video.
What does it feel like to be white? Especially if you're white in a...
So I know I'm going to get roasted 7 ways from Sunday, and I know that people are going to come after me for this video. But I feel like I needed to respond. The lady's question, and it's a very valid question, I think, of what does it feel like to be white, particularly in America. And she goes on to say that she feels like being black, they carry the weight of the whole race on their shoulders. Like if someone who's black screws up, they carry that weight for the whole race. Like everyone feels it. And I get it. Just a little background. I grew up a little Polak in a predominantly German town. I pretty much got my ass beat every day for several years just because I was a Polak. That's not to say that I completely understand everything that black people have gone through, but I can relate. My dad also lived in a predominantly black neighborhood, and I spent a lot of time with him. Both of my sisters are married to black men. My nephews are black, so I'm not saying that gives me any credence or credit to speak on this, but I just wanted to say, how does it feel to be white in America? We don't think about it. It's not, literally, there is nothing at any point in our lives where we've said, oh, we're white, this is awesome. And looking in from the outside to the black community, and I really don't want to come off as mean or hateful, but I think that the black community as a whole does this to themselves. You allow the black leaders to put you in that position to continually make you feel that way. Look, I've lived and worked all over the United States. I've met thousands of people, worked with thousands of people. I can tell you that even in the deepest parts of Alabama, Sylacauga, Alabama, I have only ever met a handful of really truly racist people. There's no reason for you to carry the weight of your race on your back. I think as a whole, you have to let that go. It's not coming from our side where we put that on you. It's not coming from white people that put that on you. It's coming from your own people. So I would say it's not, being white is not, it's not a thing. It really isn't. So I hope you have a blessed day. And yeah, that's it.
White people. Question. What does it feel like to be white?
It's a really good question. I don't think I know the answer because I'm white and I grew up in a white supremacist country. I do think, though, that there is a difference between being rich and white, which is like default white, like white, and then like being poor and white, which is like white trash. And I think that like a lot of the reaction that we've seen from white people around like the opposition to DEI and the opposition to the Black Lives Matter movement, I think is sort of driven by sort of frustration that they have in not being able to participate fully in the idea of whiteness that is promised to them by white supremacy. Because like white trash folk like me, like there are these like pipelines that run throughout your life, and they start with your family of origin and they go through your schools, they go through your career, and yeah, so like if you grow up in a poor community and nobody around you has a high paying job and you don't know what careers are possible, then you're going to do what you see people around you doing, and that is going to be other low income jobs with like a dead end future. And like I wanted to be a scientist, and I went back to school for STEM recently for biology, and I got to have an internship at a very prestigious oceanographic laboratory, and I really got to see how that operates up close, because like most of the people participating in the internship program were from Ivy League schools, and I was like the token poor kid from the community college. And yeah, all these other kids, they had like parents who have PhDs, they have done work, like they're going to an Ivy League school, they've done like multiple projects in cooperation with the lab already, they have like working relationships with senior research scientists already, and then they're ready to go as soon as they, like they'll have published papers by the time they get their undergrad, and then they're ready to go into a career in science with like having published papers, going into a postdoc thing, and then you have your whole like postdoc career and blah blah blah. But like for me, like as a poor person who went back later in life, like none of that is like really a possibility for me. And it's just because like I don't know, it's sort of like growing up poor, you're sort of set up for failure from the jump. So yeah, and we're told by white supremacist society, by like mother culture whispering in our ear about what we should be expecting of ourselves because we're white, even though we're poor, that, you know, we should be able to do anything we put our minds to. We should be able to, like, you know, follow our dreams, and it's bullshit. Like we don't, but like, so there's like, yeah, I don't know. I think that's why there's like the MAGA movement is growing so much right now, and why there's like so much like kind of like white supremacist adjacent anger amongst poor white people, is because of that cognitive dissonance between like them being told what whiteness is, which is like rich people whiteness, but then they're like poor people white, and like that frustration of like not being able to participate fully in what they're told being white means. So, oh man, long story long. I think to be rich and white, to be like white would be, it probably feels like fucking awesome. Probably feels like you don't have to think about fucking anything. I don't know though. That's not me. I certainly don't feel like the previous person said that I have to be like a representative of my race or whatever, because like I'm not oppressed in that way. I am oppressed in other ways. I don't know. This is a good conversation though. I'm really interested to follow this and see what other people have to say.
White people. Question. What does it feel like to be white?
You know, I was going to ignore this post and go on, but you did ask, so I'm just speaking for myself. But how does it feel to be white? It feels like skin to me, and that's what I don't understand. You know, how would you feel if a white person got on here and said, "Black people, how does it feel to be black?" I mean, really? What difference does it make? We're all human. But since we want to bring race into this, how does it feel to be white? Sometimes it's very exhausting because we're being constantly blamed for shit that we didn't do that happened, you know, like 200 years ago to people that we don't even know. So that's kind of exhausting. Anytime one of us stands up and says, "Hey, we're proud to be white," or whatever, we're instantly called a racist, but yet y'all and others can stand up and say, "I'm proud to be black, proud to be Mexican," whatever. But how dare we do it because we're instantly a racist? We're constantly getting bombarded, you know, with this whole race thing, and we're always made to feel like we're the ones that done something wrong. And it don't matter if we were there or not there or whatever, we still get the blame for it. So it does get quite exhausting. And like I said, you know, y'all stand up and say you're proud to be black, but God forbid if we do it, because then we're all of a sudden racist. You know how that works. We're not, I mean, you brought this up, so I'm just stating, you know, some things here. Y'all have your BET, your Black Entertainment Channel. Do you see a white one? No. Why? Oh, because it would be racist. Y'all have black-only colleges. Do we have white-only colleges? No, because that would be racist. You know, it's like everything we do as white people is racist, you know, and that's what we get sick of. You know, why can't y'all just live your lives? Let us live our lives. We're all human. What? This is 2024. All you're doing is feeding this flame that the higher ups keep wanting you to do by falling into all this race traps. Get past the skin color. Maybe we can do something around here if everybody did. You know, maybe if we all actually come together like the higher ups are trying to keep us from doing, we wouldn't have the problem from the higher ups. Just saying. But you asked the question, so yeah, that's just how I feel personally. It's very exhausting sometimes. You got to watch everything you say because you're going to be labeled a racist or whatever. So yeah, that can be very exhausting. But other than that, it, I, I don't know. How does it feel to be human? That's my question. Just how does it feel to be human? You tell me.
So, white people. Question. What does it feel like to be white?
You asked the question, what it's like to be white in America. Well, I don't know. I guess like what it feels like to be any other American. Ridiculous taxes. Working 50 hours a week to pay for a house that I'm hardly ever in, to pay for a car that I solely use for work because that's all I do. Taxes upon taxes. We pay them to work. They take taxes out of our check. We pay them to live in the houses. If you buy a house, you pay the mortgage. You have to pay the mortgage for the land and for the house. Like you didn't already pay tax, title, and license when you bought the house. So then you have to pay those taxes on top of that. Then you go to buy things for your house and you pay taxes on top of that. Then automatically, we have 23 different diversity groups in our company, which irritates me because at the end of the day, we're all people, right? So you just build people. That's what you do. We have a African American, Hispanic, veterans, and a women's group, and a couple of more. But the women's group I'm a part of it actually. And sometimes there's comments in there made that act like men are trying to destroy us and get us kicked out of being in construction. And it's actually kind of hurtful because I've worked in construction for 6 years now. And I can tell you right now, 90% of the men don't care. They're very helpful. They try to help me carry ladders. They've tried to help me do some work. They've tried to help me reach things that I couldn't reach, because I'm also 5 foot. But, I don't feel any different being a woman. Now, are there everyday things because I'm working with most men? Absolutely. But also being in America, I get stopped at Walmart door and asked for my receipt almost every single time. I have been kicked out of stores for what reason, I don't know. But I've also been followed around Walmart. They have watched me when I went to pick out nail polish because I had 2 or 3 nail polishes and I was kind of holding them like this so that I could hold on to them. They followed me around and acted like I was going to steal something. I don't know if it's any different than what you guys go through, but I also know that people have this preconception of like me having some white privilege. What privilege? That's the only thing I'm asking, because whenever I applied for my position, they actually were like telling me they were trying to be more diverse. And so the fact that I was a woman, I got it, which is kind of sucky because if I'm not more qualified, why give me the job? I don't want to get the job because I'm a woman or I'm half Hispanic. I want the job because I deserve the job. So it's kind of irritating, honestly, because they're looking for more diversity in the company. So they want to put someone with a different ethnicity, African American, Hispanic, Asian. They are pushing to be more diverse, which is a great thing. Don't get me wrong, it's a great thing. But they chose me because I was a woman over a guy who's actually been in construction for a really long time, and he was really, really smart. Not saying that I'm not smart. I'm just saying they chose me based on the fact that I was a woman, which is kind of irritating because a man who deserved the job didn't get the job because they were trying to be more diverse. And I'm just really concerned and confused because everybody just seems to think that I have it so much better because I'm in a white American. But I live in a rent house. I have no privileges. I work my butt off 50, 60 hours a week. My husband does too. He works 6 days a week just so that we can make ends meet. I don't own my house. I don't qualify for any assistance, which would really be nice because I'm tired of paying for my food. It's expensive, especially right now, all the prices going up. But I'm just waiting for somebody to tell me what my privileges are because I'm ready to use them. Like, seriously, how do I tap in? How do I use these privileges? Because I really need them right now. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted of thinking that America is so great, land of the free, but we pay so much in taxes and we work so hard and look, babe, I want everybody to be happy and I want everybody to have a good life and I want everybody to be able to, I'm not going to say live in peace because that's not going to ever happen, but to understand we're all just people living in this place. And if we all were just able to help out each other just a little bit, then it would be so helpful. It really would. I have 3 sisters that are half black and I have 4 other siblings on top of those 3 sisters that are half Hispanic. And I can tell you right now, we all fight for the same stuff. We all deal with the same crap. And a lot of stuff that I do because I eat food that my husband thinks is crazy because he's never eaten it. But it's poor people food. It's not. I was raised in the hood with my sisters. We were raised in the projects, running speed bump to speed bump, barefooted in the middle of the night because we had nothing else to do. So, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I just know what it's like to live in America, and right now in America, it's ridiculous. Why are we paying almost $4 a gallon for gas? Why are we paying so much in taxes? Why is it so hard to get a job? I don't know. I hope that answered your question. If not, I'm sorry. But I'm exhausted too. For people thinking that I have to prove that I'm not racist, or I have to prove that I don't have some privilege, or I love y'all. I love you. I love everybody the same. Everybody the same. I don't see color. What I see is effort, realness, love, and affection. I do street ministry and prison ministry because I want to give back because I was incarcerated. But I just want everybody to understand that I get people have struggles, and I get some struggles are not right, and I get some people are hateful, and some people are ugly, and some people do things that they shouldn't be doing. But most of us, we just care about people's safety and love and affection.
White people. Question. What does it feel like to be white?
Doesn't really feel like anything. You don't run around thinking, hey, I'm white. What does it feel like? Because we don't race identify like that. We just are. But I can tell you, it feels like sometimes people are a little unsympathetic. If anything happens to you and you have a disaster and you need like services like welfare or food stamps, you can't get them. People are really unsympathetic and kind of rude these days. But we just kind of do our own thing, live our lives, go to work, do our thing. Don't really think too much about it. We're not racially centric like that. But mostly it kind of feels like the world has gotten kind of rude and unsympathetic and kind of nasty. And to those of us that really have never done anything to harm anybody of another race, we're kind of like, what the hell?
What does it feel like to be white?
Never really thought about that before. But since you want to ask the question, I'll answer the best I can as a palm-colored friend of yours. Feels like being blamed for absolutely everything. If something goes wrong, it's the white people's fault. Feels like being called any slur that somebody wants to call you and you can't say nothing back. Because if you do, you're in the wrong. Feels like being told you don't do enough. You don't speak out enough. Okay, so when you do speak out, you're told to stay in your place. And it also feels like going to a comedy club and as soon as you walk in, everybody stops and stares at you like you ain't supposed to be there. However, I don't care about none of that. None of that bullshit. You know what I do care about? The fact that it's hot as hell in Georgia right now. Peace.
White people. Question. What does it feel like to be white?
I don't think that's an easy question to answer. I mean, I think it depends where you're from, what part of the country you live in. I lived in California for a while when I was a kid. I lived in Nebraska. I lived in Iowa. I lived in Illinois when I was in the Navy. And I had friends of all colors. Never had issues when we were kids. We hung out, we played, we ran around, and we did stupid shit. Now, it seems like race is pushed like no other. And it's crazy. That's what the media wants. They want to separate everybody. They want to make everybody hate each other and everybody fight against each other. And it's bullshit. Because some of the worst people I met in the world are white, and some of the best people I met in the world are black. The best man I've ever known in my entire life, Coach Ben Parks. He was a black man. And he taught me more about life and more about being a man and more about just being nice to other people than anybody I ever met in my entire life. He cared about everybody, no matter who you were, no matter where you come from. And color didn't mean nothing to nobody. Sometimes where you come from plays a huge part. When I was in the Navy, I had joined from California and had a couple guys that joined from New York, and they were black, and they didn't like me because I was white from California, and I must have been a surfer. But it was funny because when I moved to California from Nebraska as a kid, everybody in California thought I was just some corn farmer. And then it was funny. When I moved to Iowa from California, people thought I was some surfer punk and that I had no clue about life. And it's just crazy the different thoughts people have no matter where you're at in the country. That's why I feel like people need to travel more in the U.S. So many people want to travel to see other countries, but man, there's so many differences inside our own country that people don't even realize is here. And you got to get out there. You got to meet different people, different cultures, different races, different backgrounds, because everybody's different. And I feel like you can feel good about where you come from, and you can feel bad about where you come from. It just depends on the people around you and how much they build you up. That's why I'm a firm believer that you don't need to keep negative people around in your life. You keep the positive. And I don't care if the negative are family or friends or people you don't know. They're negative, you get rid of them. You don't need to deal with stress from people that have nothing to do with your life. Keep positive people around. That's all that matters.
Welcome back to the channel. And folks, remember I told you that white people's opinion in regards to how do they really feel, it's varied because of their intersectionality. Everyone's just gonna speak on their sector. Man, woman, what social class do you believe in? Things like how does it feel to be a white gay? How does it feel to be a white single woman? There is so intersectionality things that we need to talk about. However, one thing that runs across this discussion, it is one thing. You know, some people just tend to be violent, or just some people tend to be defensive when you ask them this question. Because I think that this is something which is ingrained in their mind, because it was just a simple question. It's just like you can ask a black person, how does it really feel to be black? For me, if you could ask me, there is an intersectionality. I'm a black person in Africa. My stances might be there's a thin line between my difference and a black American, because most of the struggles we share, but the thin line is that an African American or black American is based in the United States, and they receive these problems firsthand. For me, a black person in Africa dealing with majority of black people, my experience might be a little bit different from a person who is in the United States. You know, we share something. Slavery happened, colonization happened in Africa, right? So there is the intersectionality also between the inside black people, right? So this is what I'm trying to say to you. So I feel like majority of people who are being asked these questions, at least they never answered it. It's also for few. There's this man that I saw who tried to answer it, and one of the things that he did, he admitted that it is really he accepts the mistakes that these people did. And one thing that I always say, and I'll say it and I'll say it again, first thing to salvage yourself from sin is acceptance. The moment you choose to accept that you did something wrong, it is easy even for you to forgive yourself because you know where the problem is. So that makes it easier for you to know that there is a mistake or there is something wrong that you did, right? And we are having Project 2025. We are having the high living standard of the United States increasing. The dollar is really declining, and it's really hitting hard on people's pocket today in the United States. The statistics has it that maybe come 2020, 2030, a lot of people will be homeless in the United States because of the increasing living standards. And you know what? And we say that black folks have been dealing with these things for the longest time. Now today, even white people are really dealing with it. And that's the intersection that I'm talking about. We also have white people who are poor, white people who live in the streets. I know of a city or a state where it has a street where just white people who are living under the tunnels. I know it is. You know. So I tried to do some scholarly down work. The best thing about this video is that you've heard it from first hand white folks talking about how does it really feel to be a white person, really. So with me here, this is a presentation that clearly tries to highlight how, like in general, how it feels to be white, right? So first, we're starting with the privilege and unconscious benefit. Social privileges. Many white people in Western societies benefit from systemic advantages that often go unnoticed. This includes being more likely to see people who like them in positions of power and influence. This is something which is common. Since independence, how many white presidents have we had in the United States? How many black presidents have we had in the United States? You have your answer for yourself. Economic opportunity. Now, what does the stats say? The statistical data often shows that white individuals may have better access to higher paying jobs, quality, education, and housing. The second thing that I would like to talk about is representation and visibility. Media representation of white people and media representation of black people. Media representation of white people, of answering the question of how does it feel to be a white person. White individuals often see themselves represented positively and frequently in media, including TV shows, movies, advertisements, and books. Talking about historical narratives, mainstream historical narratives in Western countries often center on the achievements at the expense of erasing or marginalizing other contributions of other groups. For how long have we been lied about the inventions which black people did? It was erased and it was put with white people inside it. For how many times has that happened? The history that we're having, it's clearly something that we need to question, some things which happened. Because if a person can say they discovered something and black people already in those places, does it really make sense to you, what I'm trying to say? The third one that I'd like to talk about is social interactions and microaggressions. Talking about reduced racial microaggression, white people generally face fewer racial microaggressions, subtle, often unintentional discriminatory comments or behaviors. How many times have we observed people sharing racist rants towards black people? How many times are we seeing black people being frisked while white people are passing in these public places? How many times have we seen this kind of cases happening? How many times have we seen black people being stopped in the car while white people are passing with it? How many times have we seen these things? These are the microaggressions that white people don't face, that black people really face, and that is really how it feels to be a white person. I'm going to talk about comfort in spaces. White individuals are more likely to feel comfortable and including in various social, educational, and professional environments. Let me give you a story. In high-end African restaurants and hotels, the reception of a white person and the reception of a black person, it's like water and paraffin or oil, if you say. It is so immiscible. These people are treated differently, hell differently. Just go, even from black people themselves, the way they treat fellow black people and the way they treat white people, totally different. So they share, they enjoy the comfort in spaces, right? Because of their skin color. The fourth one is identity and cultural norms. Normativity. Whiteness is often considered the default or normal in Western societies, which means white people are less likely to be asked to represent their race or culture. Whereas if it's a black person, you'll have to say it. White is normal, normativity, right? The pictures depicting Jesus, Yeshua, they were depicted as white. But just recently, if it were not for Russia to open the vaults, the world couldn't have believed this because it's even written in the scripture. How does this prove me wrong? This is what people have normalized. And there are some countries, especially some countries, if you go, the first thing you meet or the first thing a person will say to you is bleaching products. They want you to look white because that's the skin which is normal to them. That's what is being normalized to them. So according to them, that's what is the standard of how a person should look like. I'm also going to talk about awareness and education. Talking about racial awareness. Some white people might not be fully aware of the extent of their racial privilege or the systemic nature of racism. This lack of awareness can be due to living predominantly white environments or receiving an education that does not emphasize these issues. And this is something this answers a lot of questions. You go and see maybe 5 people in the comment section, probably they are white. They will not agree with me because these are talks that they are not comfortable with, because they are not racially aware. Being racially aware is first understanding that you're not right because you're white, you're not right. And if a black person comes out and speaks about this, you can do your research about it if you don't agree with what they say. That's how we critically deal with things, not just like anything a person says against a white person is always wrong. No, it ain't. And it shouldn't work like that. I'm going to talk about responsibility and allyship. As awareness of racial issues increases, many white people actively work to understand and challenge systemic racism, striving to be allies in the fight for racial equality. Yeah, I can't fail to recognize the fact that we also have white people who comes out, especially in the United States during the time of Black Lives Matters. You could see even white people with placards, and I mean, this is a real good movement. And we've also had white people who have come out to speak the truth, come out to talk about these things, come out and point out where they went wrong. Some people also go to an extent of exposing how their families, their father or mother did something to people. And some stories are a little bit creepy. But yeah, that's just the truth of how this thing really works. I'm also going to talk about regional and cultural variations, difference in experiences. The experience of being white can differ greatly between countries or region. For example, white people in United States may have different experience compared to white people in South Africa, Brazil, Europe, due to varying historical context and racial dynamics. True. And I think I tried to highlight it in the part of the intersectionality. History really matters towards this thing. I hope you find this video informative. I have found you find this video thought-provoking, and I hope that we learned together. And if you are watching this video for the first time again, I'll really encourage you to join our membership, subscribe to the channel, and get to see what we can really offer you. This is Eugene Talk Stories. Until then, let's meet in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.